breathe in, breathe out. You keep me alive. You are my passion for life.
Hello, and welcome to Passion Supernatural Podcast, a podcast where we discuss what we consider to be the best soap opera ever, Passions. I am Joe Velasquez, and on the show with me, I have my lovely co-host, Casey Metcalf. How you doing, Casey?
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining me once again. Now, if you're a fan of the late NBC Daytime Later 101 network on DirecTV daytime soap opera Passions, this podcast is just for you. Welcome, Casey, for the second weekend of Passion Supernatural Podcast. If you remember us last Sunday, when we were on our first episode that aired on YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern, then you remember we talked about a lot of things Passions. We discussed the cast, storylines, the characters, and more. Now, today, we will be discussing more stuff Passions, just as we will be every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. So be sure to tune in because there is a lot of magical, crazy, and devilish stuff on Passions. So for those of you who recall the show from years ago, they were not your mother's soap opera. I mean, okay, yeah, they had sex. Yeah, they did. Okay, but what soap opera doesn't? I mean, seriously, they had that kind of stuff. But I mean, this soap had magic, witchcraft, demon elves, portals to hell, zombies, asteroids, musical theater parodies. That was my favorite. Houses being sucked into the ground, living dolls, and much more. So, I say, check it out. About 98% of the episodes all stream on YouTube to this very day. Not the best quality, but probably the best that you're gonna get with the show no longer being on anymore. So be sure to check it out. It's amazing. All right. Yeah, there we go. That's our here we are back again. Our second episode. How's everything going, Casey? I mean,
Good.
yep, I mean, life going great with you and all that?
Yep. It's been busy.
And busy. I mean, it's probably been busy for a lot of people. I mean, that's I gotta say and everything. Yeah. So, with us on this podcast and everything, there's like so many things to discuss and everything. And I mean, Casey and I have done some talking and everything. And one thing that I will say, because as I mentioned last week, or I should say last weekend, beg my pardon, last weekend on Sunday, as I said, is that Casey here, unfortunately, has been watching the show longer than I have. Yeah, which is amazing because I'm such a big fan. But she has what you've been watching since what the beginning, Casey? You said in the beginning, or did you?
1999.
1999. Yep. She started from the very beginning, whereas I didn't come in until much later, or whatever. However, unfortunately, since I met Casey and all, and we became friends, the one thing that I came to realize is that she has been watching longer than I have, but she, however, was unable to see what would turn out to be, sadly, the final season of Passions, which was season 8, season 9. Sorry, again, season 9 on 2008. I believe it was 2008. I believe it was, yes, when the show was unfortunately dropped by NBC Daytime and was moved exclusively to the 101 network only on DirecTV. So her and I have actually been trying to keep up for some time and everything. We've been watching together the final episode, episodes that aired on DirecTV, and we've come semi far. The show started on DirecTV in September 2007 and went all the way to August of 2008. So we still got a bit more to go, but so far, I mean, we have so far scrolled through. I mean, I think we went from September and we're right now on, what is it?
November.
Yeah, November. That's right, November. We're right now on November 2007. Yep. So Casey and I have actually, we're kind of trying to catch her up on the episodes that she missed. and everything, because I know many people will disagree with me and everything. A lot of people will disagree with me, but the truth of it is, the final season was actually my favorite season. I'm not entirely sure why. It just was. Most people disliked the final season and all that and just didn't really care for it and said that it just didn't have what it used to have and all that. But that was my favorite. So here I am catching Casey up and everything. And I mean, we've been, seeing a lot of things going on as of right now. I mean, uh, I mean, where to even begin with it? I mean, of what we've seen so far. I mean, where do we even start? Um, I mean, if I just from what we've seen so far, I mean, of all the moments of like where Eve has gotten completely out of her mind and everything because she well,
Drinking.
yes, drinking, but she thinks that Vincent is dead, but seriously, Vincent, come on, is going to take a lot more than falling off a cliff to kill him and everything, And so, I mean, come on, he's the flipping blackmailer and all that, and all that stuff and everything. And also, she also has no idea or whatever that Vincent and his girlfriend Valerie are actually the same person. Oh man, isn't that something?
But then Valerie sleeps with Julian, and Julian doesn't even know it, that it's Vincent that he's having, what with.
Own son. Yeah. Oh, and I here I thought, man, I tell you, the stuff that goes on Passions, that was crazy because that is just woo. But yeah, we've seen all that. We have so far been introduced to our new Paloma chick and everything since the Sylvana Arias departed the role before it moved to DirecTV, and Anya Geelan took over the role. So we have been introduced to the new Paloma, and we've been, I've been accustomed to her since I watched the season and all that stuff. And so Casey and I together now, we are now having to get used to this new woman as the youngest Lopez Fitzgerald daughter, and fiance of Noah Bennett and everything. And I was actually just telling Casey that the other just what was it, about a few days ago when we were watching an episode that had her and Noah on it. I was actually saying I really think that the character took a real what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe a real 360 turnaround, whatever the word is, or whatever, in change or whatever, since one actress left and another actress took over and all of that. Because the way that I always saw it was more like, Sylvana was always the romantic, sweet, basically the baby or whatever, kind of woman and everything, Lopez Fitzgerald daughter. But once Anya came on, it was almost like it was an entirely different Paloma, because this Paloma became more slutty and a lot more of a I don't know, like, I mean, okay, yeah, Sylvana was a dancer. Yes, she was. She danced, but not like Anya. Anya is just ooh la la, you know what I mean? So, like that and everything, like hotsy totsy and stuff like that and everything. So, um, yeah, and not to mention, I might have mentioned, I mean, Noah and Paloma are my favorite couple, so that will be
Mine too.
really, yeah. So that's two of us. So
Yeah,
that
beautiful couple on the show.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Along with Teresa and Ethan, I love them both too
Hmm.
on the show. So,
Yeah, yeah. Passions definitely has its couples, even though I mean, we haven't made it to the ending yet, but for all of you that probably already know or whatever who did watch the show, I mean, the majority of the people are not really happy that Luis and Sheridan did not end up together and all that stuff. I mean, I personally did not mind or whatever. I liked the way the show ended. I will not go into that right now, but I just know that about 98 to 99% of people were pretty pissed and everything. They were pretty pissed off. We're not happy and everything that Shui says they called it. Even Mackenzie Westmore and Galen Garing themselves were not happy. They even did not like it the way it ended. And so I mean, yeah. But but it's still it still had its lovers when it came to the couples, and it had some beautiful, beautiful couples and stuff. So, anyways, um, so we've seen stuff like that all going on, and we are also up to the point because, like I said, we haven't gotten that. I mean, we've gotten far, but not got that far or whatever. Again, only maybe like we're only on like the third month since its move and everything. It is that the most recent I think that we've gotten up to so far is that now we find out that Pilar Lopez Fitzgerald has a secret. Mm,
Yep.
she's got a secret, and apparently Gwen and Rebecca know it. Yeah,
Yep.
they know it. What do you think's gonna happen there? Mm, they're gonna take advantage of that. That's for sure. They're definitely gonna take some big time advantage.
But when Rebecca called that lady, whatever her name was,
Juanita
yeah,
Vasquez.
and she said that Hello lives in Harmony, and then she didn't hear what Rebecca said of the town, and then when Rebecca went to talk to Gwen about it, Gwen like, no, don't do it. Go
Right.
call that lady back and tell her it's the wrong parole. So
Yeah.
she did.
And I'm going to be very, very honest. I say this for all of you who did actually see the ending. So, spoiler alerts for all of you listening is that for a very long time, I will be very, very, very honest or whatever. I actually, for a very long time while watching the show, I was really, really, really starting to actually think for how much that Rebecca was doing, while Gwen was definitely doing the real bad stuff and everything. I was actually for a good long time, I was actually starting to think that maybe before the show ended, maybe Gwen would actually redeem herself and maybe actually do something to help Teresa, whereas Rebecca would turn out to be the real bad one, and maybe you would actually come to find out that maybe Gwen is just being manipulated by her own mother, and that maybe deep down she's not that bad. But no, I guess not. I guess I was wrong. No, I guess not. Gwen was just a, yeah, yeah, you know the word. As Mackenzie Westmore put it, babe in total control of herself.
Mm.
Exactly. So yeah. So once again, yep, Juanita Vasquez, who is apparently some enemy, secret, whatever the word is, of Pilar. She's been introduced into the story. That's like the most recent thing that we have watched so far since we've been watching. And there's bound to be trouble because she seems not good, not good, not good at all. So I guess we'll just have to watch some more episodes of Casey and I and keep on catching up so that we can talk about it some more on the show and everything. And we'll just have to see. I'll don't worry, everybody. I'll get Casey caught up. Don't you worry. I know the final season for the most part pretty well. I mean, for the most part, I remember it's the season I remember the most out of all the seasons. Probably because I saw the final season from beginning to end, whereas the other seasons I started late and stuff like that. So that's probably why I remember it the most. Um, and stuff. But speaking of which or whatever, I mean, Casey, once again, going back, once again, you've been watching longer than I have and everything. So, giving you actually a little bit of something to say here or whatever, co-host. Um, what I would like you to actually explain to us a little bit about, um, again, you've been watching since 1999. I didn't watch that far back and everything. I would like you to actually fill us in on some stuff or whatever about the earlier seasons. We just talked a good bit there about the final season, but we want to know some stuff. I mean, you watched it back then. I didn't. So tell us a bit about the earlier stuff, would you?
Well, I remember when Julian got, well, he didn't really get killed, but
Obviously.
they accused Teresa for the commit she didn't a crime that she didn't commit, and then she went to prison, and then she was going to get executed. So she did get executed, and she came back to life.
As they all do on soaps. So many come back to life.
Yep.
Yep.
I remember the execution day when they walk her down the hallway to get her executed. And she like, Ethan, Ethan, help me, save me. I remember that part.
Yeah, I did not actually see that, but I actually do know that it was actually that storyline. It was back in 2002, and that was also Eric Martsoff's first time as Ethan.
I'm on the show. Yep.
Well, not his first time on the show, but his first time as Ethan,
Mm.
because Eric had actually played a cameo guest appearance as I believe a cop, I think, or something that just appeared for like maybe like one scene or something, and then later on he came on full time as Ethan and everything taking over for Travis. So that was that yeah, that storyline of Teresa coming down the hallway to be executed, that was Eric's first day. And
Yeah.
as Eric Martsoff has actually said several times, he has actually explained. He's always when he came on, he was like, okay, so who's being killed and who do I love? The girl right there in the gurney, Annabelle Lecter over there being executed.
Yeah.
some some way to start your time on a long time show and everything. You're in love with a girl who is about to be executed, Annabelle Lecter.
Mm.
So yeah, so what else? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that went on before I came on. I mean, I'm sure you I mean you got to remember a lot of stuff, maybe not all of it, but
And Teresa went and seduced Ethan, and then she got pregnant by him with little Ethan.
yes. I did not know that was a seducing. I thought that was because I know that their first time was on the beach, and that was when Lil Ethan was conceived and everything. I didn't know it was a seducing thing, but okay, maybe it was. I didn't watch it. Yeah. Yeah, I just knew it was on the beach and it was their first time. So yeah. Um yeah, so I mean a lot of stuff like that and everything, you know. I mean, whether it was Little Ethan being made or whether it was Teresa being executed, and then there was also a lot of other things. Like um I mean in the earlier days, I mean I just just by watching clips and stuff like that, never actually seen the whole show from beginning to end. I mean, I still remember like when they very first showed Alistair for the very first time, played by David Bailey and everything. And
Yeah.
you know, I mean, for so many years you have only heard his voice, and now you're finally seeing his face for the first time. And um not to be judgmental or anything, but I actually liked David Bailey better than John Riley, who took over for the character and everything. I It was actually quite sad when he passed away, when he drowned, David Bailey, and they had no choice but to recast the character, and John Riley took over. Um, but um, yeah, I mean, once that came on, if I remember correctly, I believe that was a real huge thing after all these years of just seeing. Basically, if you think about it, this is all you were basically seeing of Alistair for all these years, and maybe like an arm on his desk or whatever,
Mm.
none of this or whatever. But then finally, they introduced the character finally and everything. I wasn't watching back then, but I think that was a pretty big deal back then and everything. And then unfortunately, not very long after he was introduced, they had to recast, unfortunately, and John Riley came on, who was kick ass. He was fantastic in the role and everything. He just uh, played him like a mob boss and everything. And as I've mentioned before, I know of John Riley as he was a guest appearance every once in a while on Beverly Hills 90210, playing a completely different character and a lot more innocent character than Passions. So, now one thing, folks, that I would like to actually say or whatever, a little bit off of the earlier days. But one thing that I will say, or whatever, I was telling Casey about this. I've told a lot of people about this, whoever likes soap operas. I, a lot of times, um, like to do this or whatever. It's actually kind of fun because for those of you that don't know, I mean, some of you do know, some of you do. I don't know. Some of you do know, so you don't know. Is that basically both the soap opera Passions and another soap opera, Days of Our Lives, which airs now exclusively on Peacock, was originally on cable, but now it's exclusively on Peacock. And um, they were both created by the late James E. Riley, who sadly passed away very, very, very shortly after Passions ended. And ever since I started watching Days, because I basically started watching Days back when Galen Gehring, aka Luis, and Eric Martzoff, aka Ethan, joined the cast of Days of Our Lives as Rafe Hernandez and Brady Black. That was when I started watching. And ever since I started watching, one fun thing that I kind of like to notice, and I love to tell this to people because, again, they're both made by James E. Riley. I basically like to give the characters of Harmony and Days of Our Lives as Salem, I like to give them counterparts. I like to basically think that the characters on Days resemble the characters and Passions in a lot of ways because I mean, I explained a little bit about this if I remember correctly. I explained a little bit about this um last Sunday. I said that I really, really, really think that both Luis and Rafe on Days of Our Lives, they are pretty much the same character. They pretty much are because I mean, think about it. Really, really think about it. They are both the same ethnicity. They're both the same actor, so that's one thing. That's one thing. They're both the same actor. Um, they both work for the law. The only difference is that Luis was a cop, whereas when we very, very first met Rafe, he worked for the FBI. Now he's a cop, but when we first met him, he worked for the FBI. So they're both cops, and they're both members of like this interesting like family. I mean, Luis had the Lopez Fitzgeralds, Pilar, Paloma, Teresa, Miguel, um, Martin, and stuff like that. Whereas Rafe has it very, very similar with the Hernandez family. I can't remember all of their names, but the ones that I do remember is like he's got his mother who's kind of like the Pilar sort of, his father who is kind of like the Martin sort of. There's Gabby Hernandez. There's Ariana Hernandez, may the character rest in peace and everything, and stuff like that. And so you kind of see what I mean. They have very, very similar family arrangements. They the only real difference, I mean, the only um there's one semi difference and there's one real difference or whatever. The semi difference is that it's kind of a funny one, is that I say they both like to go for blondes, but the fact of it is that with Passions, I mean, Casey, I don't know if you would remember this. You've been watching longer than I have. From what I've seen, the only people that Luis was really with was Sheridan and Fancy. I mean, I know he had a thing with Beth, but seriously, where does she come in? If you know what I mean with Beth. And of course, obviously, as Galen likes to put it, there was Precious. So the orangutan or whatever, there was that. But whereas Rafe, the only blonde that he was with so far had, well, actually, I'm sorry. Okay. In a way there was two. Now that I think about it, I was gonna say just Sammy, but now that I think about it, he was actually married to Nicole, and Nicole is also a blonde. So, but he's been with more than Luis was with or whatever. Luis was with two or three. Rafe has been with quite a good number of women, all attractive for that matter. But the real actual, and this is never actually said, but it's just from what I can tell by the two characters, is I think that Rafe might actually be older than Luis. I mean, again, their ages are never specified, but just from what I've seen, Rafe just seems a bit, maybe like a year or two older than the character of Luis was. So that's one example right there, or whatever. And it just seems very, very obvious. They are the same character. They're just in different worlds. They're just one's in Harmony and one's in Salem or whatever. But going on or whatever, there are other characters that also have very similar counterparts. They might have changed as the show has went on, but they definitely were there. Such as like I like to I mean, who else is there? Let me think. Like there's been um I will say one that is quite different. I will say one that is quite different is that Brady Black, played by Eric Martsolf on Days, is that and I will also use um Ariana Hernandez, who was taken over by Lindsay Hartley, aka Teresa. She started off being played by, I think her name was Felicia Terrell, I think was the original actress. I think that was her name. But then she got fired, and then Lindsay Hartley took over, which was probably one of the best casting choices, recasts that they could have ever done was cast Lindsay Hartley. But but the thing of it was that once again, Lindsay Hartley and Eric Martsolf were once again playing lovers, just like as Teresa and Ethan. However, this one was pretty different because I like to say a lot of times that the truth of it is that yes, they are played by Lindsay and Eric, who uh, um are, and they're once again playing lovers. However, they are definitely not Ethan and Teresa. They are
Yeah.
nothing like Ethan and Teresa at all. They may be
They
the same actors and they may be lovers again, but they are not the same. Like Galen is with Luis and Rafe. No,
two different people.
very different
Yep.
people. They both were, I mean, if anything, I can't really speak so much for Ariana. I mean, if she had anybody on that could have been a counterpart for her on Passions, but as far as Brady goes, I would actually say that Brady, Eric Martsolf's role on Days, I would say he's more like Noah because they both have had a history with drugs and stuff like that. I mean, before Eric Martsolf took over, Brady was a drug abuser, and Noah used to have a big thing with drugs and stuff like that and everything. And they both had kind of violent histories and everything. I mean, just seeing Eric Martsolf play this very very violent fighter and everything. I mean Noah had a if I remember all, if I just by the clips that I've seen and everything with Noah and with his time with Fancy, with all the fighting and everything that he would get himself into and landing himself into jail and stuff like that and everything, I'm like, yeah, I actually think that that's more like Noah than it is Ethan. Ethan would never do that kind of stuff that Brady did back then or is doing now. Nowadays Brady is basically he's a bit calmer now and he's more of playing a dad character and stuff like that. But he's being a father to his son, but it's still just not Ethan. Ethan would never have hair on his face, never, and
Mm.
stuff like that. But there was that, and like, oh man, who else could I possibly name? I can't really give any actual details, but I like to say that Nicole is very much Sheridan. I can't really explain details with that one. I just kind of see it like that. Um, One pretty good example is the character of Chad Demira, who on Days of Our Lives. He's kind of made a little bit of a switch or whatever to where I really don't even know where he is right now or whatever when it comes to Harmony counterparts and everything. He kind of made a jump from one character to another to where I don't even know where he is right now, Chad, because the first that I remember, he was originally played by Casey Diedrich and everything originally. And the one thing that I remember when he was played by Casey was um he was pulling the whole fake illness thing. I'm dying from an illness and all that. Doesn't that sound very familiar? Who do you think does that? Hmm. Yeah, there is only one that we can think of in Harmony who would pull something like that. And not to mention, for the same reason, he was doing it for his love for his real soulmate, Abigail, who
Fox used to do that on
Fox
Passions.
did that. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Originally, I was thinking Chad is obviously Fox because, again, Fox did it to get Kay, whereas Chad was doing it for Abigail, who is his real soulmate and was his wife. And sadly, she's no longer on the show. They killed her off. And I wish that they would bring her back, even if they have to recast again. But a lot of times I like to say that Abigail was Kay, if you know what I mean. But she's another one that I really just can't give descriptions or explanations why. I just kind of see them as the same. But at the same time, I was actually thinking, yeah, Chad is basically Fox. But then the character left the show to basically go into rehab for his illnesses and that he had and everything that he was faking. And when he came back, he was played by another actor. He was played by Billy Flynn, who is the current Chad, but not for much longer. Uh, Casey, you still with me?
Yeah,
Your
hang on.
internet went out. Well, while she gets her,
Sorry about that.
it's okay. While she gets her cam fixed and everybody. Oh, there she is. Yay, she's back. Um, I'll just go on as I was saying. Um, Billy Flynn is now the current Chad, but he will not be for much longer because Billy Flynn has already left Days of Our Lives and he has went on to take over for the role of Kane on The Young and the Restless. So Chad has been recast. He has the new actor has just not appeared yet. But when Billy Flynn very first came on as Chad, it seemed in a way, it seemed kind of like the character of Chad had basically bounced from being Fox to basically bouncing to being Miguel in a way, sort of, because just like how Miguel he fought and everything, for Kay and would do anything to get Kay and everything. Well, here was Chad now, and he was fighting to get Abigail, to love him and all that stuff. And I was like, that's very Miguel material. But now he doesn't really seem like neither one. He's just a nice guy now. He really doesn't seem like neither one. I'm not entirely sure where he is right now when it comes to Harmony counterparts and stuff like that. He's just yeah. But yeah, there was definitely that one. And who else is there on the show? I mean, I guess in a way I would say that Sammy was Fancy. Again, she's another one I can't really give a description or whatever on how exactly, but it's just how I saw it always. Um, I This one is semi similar, but not 100%. I like to say that EJ Demira on the show is kind of Julian from Passions. Um, but the only real difference is that Julian, without giving any giant spoilers to Casey, who hasn't seen the ending yet, is that Julian has a somewhat turned good guy and everything, whereas EJ, there is no redeeming this guy. That's the only difference. This guy ain't gonna redeem himself. He'll pretend like he has changed many, 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 many times and everything. Many times. And I feel like the characters on Days of Our Lives are just becoming incredibly stupid to over and over and over again continue to fall for his act and everything. They just never learn. He can't redeem himself. He's a Demira, and that's the other thing too. Look at that. The Demiras are the Cranes. That's another
Mm.
great, perfect thing right there. They're the rich family that does all the bad stuff and everything. And it's kind of like the Hernandez family is the Lopez Fitzgeralds.
Mm.
So there's like that and everything. But going back to EJ, I'm really just feeling like these characters, particularly when Sammy was on, particularly, I just felt like I feel like everybody just seriously, are you going to continue to believe this guy? He never tells the truth. He'll do anything to get what he wants and everything. And he did a lot of stuff that Julian did in the beginning, such as, he helped Fox lie to Kay and all that stuff. Well, EJ did very, very, very similar and stuff like that. And I know that there are very, very many. I mean, I don't know if there's very many. Let me rephrase that. I know that there's quite a lot. I'll say that. I know that there's quite a lot of EJ Sammy shippers, that so many people feel that EJ and Sammy belong together, and I have always hated them together. I have always said, why in the world would you put somebody with their rapist? Seriously, he flipping raped her, for crying out loud. He kidnapped her daughter and made her believe that her daughter was dead and everything. He blackmailed her to give up her kids. Why in the world would anybody ship for EJ and Sammy? A friend of mine says that it was because of the chemistry that the actors had, but I feel like that's a terrible reason to put them together. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much chemistry the actors have. If the character is really that evil, you never put somebody with their rapist and stuff. It's bad. But but EJ did a lot of the similar stuff that Julian did. But like I said, Julian at least had a semi redemption arc. I don't want to give away exactly what becomes of him in the ending or whatever. I don't want to ruin that for Casey because we haven't gotten there yet. But
Mm.
but EJ has no redemption at all, whereas Julian has shown quite a bit that he's not all bad, but he's not all good neither. EJ is just all the way bad. But a perfect one, speaking of good and bad, a perfect one is the character of Stefano, EJ's father on Days of Our Lives.
I
Oh,
remember Stefano.
yeah, played by the late Joe Moscow, I think is how you pronounce his last name. I forget how you pronounce it. Yeah,
He
yeah.
he passed away
Yes,
too.
yes, he did. That
Yep.
was the ending of a real villain arc when we lost Stefano and all that. There wasn't a way to recast him. Joe
Cause
was.
I watched Days of Life when it first came on a long time ago,
Oh, really?
and then I don't watch it now, so I had to get to watch it now
Right.
today.
I'll
So
help you get that. Maybe you and I can even watch some of it together. But I'll just say that Stefano, it was just totally obvious. There was only one counterpart for him. He was Alistair. That's all there was to it. He was just Alistair
hmm
all the way. And it does make sense because I mean Julian was Alistair's son. Well, EJ is Stefano's son. So there you go. It kind of connects and everything, but just they were definitely, similar in many ways, just pure evil, had no heart. Um,
like father, like son.
mm-hmm. Like father, like son,
hmm
indeed. Um, I will say two other characters that I would relate or whatever with this. Like I said, there's quite a few, and James E. Riley really had similarities with the characters. Two others that I will say that you can't say that they're anything like this anymore. But originally would say that Gabby Hernandez, Rafe's younger sister, who think I think she's the youngest Hernandez. I would have to ask my friend, who's also a Days fan, if Gabby is the youngest daughter. I originally said that's Paloma. I said that's Paloma right there and everything. Oh my God, that's another thing that really connects Rafe and Luis, but also the other Hernandez family. They speak Spanish. Both shows they speak Spanish, but Gabby was Paloma. I think originally because Gabby originally was a pure good character and stuff like that. But and then after some time though, she kind of lost that Paloma image, even though she was Rafe's little sister and all that stuff. She kind of because Paloma was innocent. Paloma would never hurt a fly, and she took her job as a cop very, very, very seriously. Gabby, on the other hand, though, Gabby kind of, I'm not going to go as far as to say she became a villain, but she definitely lost her innocence. She started doing a lot of very bad things. She did things because she got jealous, and she did some pretty nasty things. If anything, I'm just now kind of thinking of this as we're doing the show right now. I might as well say this. If anything, when Gabby started to make some changes, she kind of, in a way, sort of became the later on Kay, in a way, sort of. If you remember, Kay did all of that bad stuff to Charity because she was
Yep.
jealous and all that kind of stuff. Well, Gabby kind of did similar. She actually did some bad things to Abigail, and also did some bad things to the character of Melanie as well. And Gabby, because the character of Gabby left the show because she was arrested. I think twice. I think there were two times where the character was sent to prison for different reasons, and that was the reason that the character left the show. And now she's back as her third actress. Now she's on her third actress now, and she's been let out of prison. But like I said, she did some pretty bad things, and she went to prison for some things and stuff. Very the opposite of Paloma, but now she's a mom and everything. She had a baby girl and everything, and now her daughter, her who she named after her sister Ariana, she's all grown up as a teenager now, and even Ariana is Gabby's daughter is even having some real storyline, is some real character progression and stuff like that. But like I said, in the beginning, I would say that Gabby was Paloma, but not so much anymore because now she is actually capable of doing some bad stuff. Whereas Paloma, she would never hurt a fly. And the
Mhm.
other one that I was gonna say that was one character, but now can't say that anymore or whatever, is the character of Ben Weston, who appeared when he appeared on Days. Originally, he was the um I can't remember if he married her or if he was just engaged to her. I really can't remember, but he was the lover of Abigail, and Abigail could not stop being with Chad. Her true love was Chad and all that, and she again, that I guess that's something very Kay-like, if you know what I mean. I mean, Kay married Fox, but she couldn't stop seeing Miguel and stuff like that. So again, it's no wonder I see Abigail as kind of Kay. So there is that one. But Ben, though, he wanted Abigail all to himself and everything, and he actually became sick or whatever, wanting Abigail. And so what he did is something that's probably going to sound familiar to a lot of you Passions fans. Is he basically what he did is he went all around Salem, known as the Necktie Killer and all of that, where he went around, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's been a while. If I remember correctly, he wore, I think, a black ski mask. I think it was. He would go around killing innocent people by strangling them with Chad's red neckties, and he would frame Chad for the murders and stuff. Now, who does that sound like from Harmony? Yeah, I think all of you Passions fans would know. That would be Vincent as the blackmailer. So for a
Yeah.
time, Ben was kind of Vince. I mean, no, Ben's not gay and everything, and he's not a crazy, um, everything else that I'm not gonna spoil for Casey because there is a few things about Vincent that she's gonna be rather shocked about when she continues with what we're watching. I'm not gonna spoil it. He's not that stuff, but being the necktie killer, that kind of connects to the whole blackmailer thing and everything. But can't really say that anymore. Ben is an entirely different character now. Now he's completely all good. He's cured. He's a loving man. He's a hero. He ended up marrying Sierra Brady, which is a beautiful couple now and everything. And they both have two children together, a son and a daughter. They're not on the show anymore, unfortunately. Ben and Sierra left the show, but but he's definitely a hero. He's nothing of the villain Vincent was and everything. So, but they were in the beginning, they were pretty similar and everything with that crazy stalker characters, blackmailer and necktie killers. And so, but as you all kind of see and everything, I like to basically say passions versus days in a way, sort of, because so many characters had or still do have counterparts and stuff. And there's just so many of them and everything. I mean, I really would have to go through all of the characters. I've yet to even really find a I've yet to really even find a an Ethan for in the Salem world. I can't really find an Ethan because Ethan was such a do-gooder in every sense of the word. He was always vanilla ice cream. He would never ever do anything wrong. I mean, yeah, he would defend himself, which meant he might have to get into a fight, but he would never just immediately think about using violence. That was one of the things that made Ethan so lovable, was that he was such a good guy and everything. I can't find anybody on Days of Our Lives that is that good. You know, I mean, almost everybody on Days would resort to some kind of bad thing, if you know what I mean. I can't really think of anybody that was vanilla ice cream like that. So I've yet to find an Ethan, and I've yet to find a Teresa too.
Yep.
A friend of mine said that when her and I watch Passions, you know, which is not that often, but when her and I watch Passions every once in a while, she said that she thought that Teresa was kind of the earlier Sammy from Days of Our Lives, and everything the way that Sammy was in the beginning. She's changed since then, Sammy, but in the beginning, Sammy was a lot like Teresa, but I did not watch when Sammy first came on, so I wouldn't know. But
Mm.
yeah, that's one fun thing that I love to do whenever I'm watching Days. I'm always seeing if I can find characters that connect to the Passions characters. And so, um, um, but there is just literally, there's like so much and everything, you know, or whatever. I mean, I mean, like I said before, Casey and I still got a fair bit more to go, and I'm not gonna spoil that for her and everything. I don't want to give any spoilers. I want her to really be surprised. So let's all stay tuned, everybody, to see Casey's reactions when we continue to watch more episodes. And when she finds stuff out, she's gonna be like, "Oh man, did I miss the final season? All right." And so I can't wait to see the reaction on her face for my beloved co-host here. Um, but um, so there's a lot of stuff like that going on, and I mean, um, and um, there was actually one other thing that I actually wanted to discuss on today's episode and everything is before our time runs out is that is again, this is more along your line, Casey, because once again, for the who knows how many time, you've been watching it longer than I have. Was basically one thing I really wanted to discuss about character passions was character introductions, because um again, that's more on your area, because when I started watching, just from what I remember, which I really cannot remember that well, it was years ago, but I really don't think any new characters were really introduced when I came on. I think that was pretty much it. I mean, obviously characters were recast, so there was introductions to new actors playing the characters, but there were no actual new characters. All the characters that were there, they were there. They were either there or they were going to get killed off. So a lot more characters were introduced when you were on. So when you were watching. So I mean, just remembering. Ethan had been on since episode one. Ethan, Teresa, Gwen, they had been on since episode one. Um, you'll really have to help me out here and everything to really do some thinking and everything. But I mean, like I said, Ethan, Teresa, Gwen, they've been on since episode one.
And even Ivy and Jessica
I,
and Sam
yep, they were all on since episode one. Yes. Um, and
and Tabitha.
Well, actually, I think Tabitha actually came on episode 2 or 3, but it was still close enough. Yeah, Tabitha, I know she wasn't in the debut episode, but she was like in episode 2 or 3, somewhere around there. Same thing with Timmy. Timmy even came in later because Tabitha was still making him when we were introduced to her. I mean, I know that Eve and Julian, they've been on since episode 1 and all that. Kay, I know, was on since episode 1, but she was not Heidi, which was my Kay when I started watching. It was Taylor. Taylor is my favorite Kay. Heidi would be my second. But Heidi was the one playing Kay when I started. Miguel was on there, but he was played by Jesse Metcalf.
Yep.
And Luis and Sheridan, obviously Sheridan, because she had the whole France Princess Diana storyline that everybody has a lot of controversy about.
I remember that
Yeah,
storyline.
my friend says that they really, even Mackenzie Westmore thinks the same thing. My friend says that they really took the Princess Diane thing way too far. They took it way too far. Mackenzie Westmore said that she was surprised they were able to get away with it. About
Mm.
but I mean, I really don't know because I'm not as familiar with Princess Diana and all that stuff, but um, so I really wouldn't know exactly to the extremes, but like that, and but I mean, such as um 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 but yeah, I mean, I know that other characters like, I mean, Noah and Fancy and Esme, Father Lonigan. Oh, actually, Pilar was on since episode 1, and Whitney,
Yep.
and Whitney, um, but Paloma, pretty, um, oh yeah, Pretty's a character we haven't really seen that much of, have we? I mean, since it's moved, or have we? I can't remember.
No,
We haven't
I
seen
don't
very
think
much of her.
so.
I mean, she's definitely still on because DirecTV is when she got her, what happens to her and everything. I just don't, for as long as you and I have been watching, I haven't really seen I don't remember us seeing very much of her yet, but she's definitely still on. Pretty. Um, 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 who else? I mean, they all joined later. So even Fox, if you know, I mean, played by Justin Hartley, even he came later, and all those characters, they were all around, they were all there um when I started watching, and that was kind of it. There really was no new characters after that, just recast. You were either, well, actually, I believe that Chad was in the first few episodes. I forget exactly what episode, but I mean, when I came on, he was recast when I started watching and stuff like that. Chad.
And Chad and Whitney was a couple,
Mhm.
and I remember Whitney was pregnant with his baby,
Right.
and she didn't even know that Chad was her half brother.
Or so she thought or whatever, because in the end, they did end up still being a couple when I was on. They were still, the whole thing was basically Whitney being all disgusted because Vincent and Chad having that disgusting thing going on or whatever. So apparently they weren't half siblings, or else they wouldn't have been, when I started watching and all that. But yeah, I mean, um, and not to mention when I started watching, I mean, Fox was pretty much a bad guy by the time I started watching. I didn't see the storylines when everybody loved Fox because of Justin Hartley, and he was a completely different character. He was a good guy and everything, but when Mark Weisstrack took over, he became a bad guy. Um, Even when Nick Stabile temporarily took over the role of Fox, who I love. I, I love Nick Stabile as the temporary Fox. I love Nick Stabile in general. He was another one. He was another one that was temporarily on days as a villain, on even worse than Fox, on Days of Our Lives temporarily. I loved his time on the show. I just love Nick Stabile in general. He's a great actor in a lot of roles I've seen him in, including Bride of Chucky. But yeah, I mean, I actually, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even get to see until I went back later on, and I've seen a lot of clips and watched a number of episodes, but never from beginning to end. I didn't even get to see the original Charity, Molly Stanton. I saw her. recast when first um Julian had arranged the fake Charity and the fake Miguel to sleep in the shed so that Kay would not leave Fox, and then the real Charity came back, just played by the other actress and everything. I don't remember her name. But so like I said, I mean, Charity, Charity, I don't think she was necessarily new. She was just a recast, um, and all that. And so Miguel had already come back by the time I started watching. He was already the second Miguel. And so um that was one thing that I really found a real giant coincidence or whatever when I started watching the show, was that I really didn't get anybody. And actually, oh my word, now that I think about it, maybe okay, maybe there was one new character that joined later, and that was Pretty. I forgot that she came in later after I had started. So now that I think about it, okay, there was one new character. Like I said, we haven't
Mm.
really seen very much of her yet from what you and I have been watching. I'm wondering where she is. I mean, ever since she came on, she's been trying to ruin things for Fancy and Luis and everything. And she gets a really big storyline in the final season. So you're actually going to be kind of shocked at the things that happens to Pretty. I'm just surprised that for how much we've been watching, we haven't really seen very much of her. Kind of like wondering where'd she go, you know? But yeah, not very much. But Melinda Sword did join in later and all that. I forgot about her. So okay, maybe I was wrong. I guess there was one new character that was introduced later on, but like I said, not very many. Not very many new characters when I started watching. It was pretty much all the characters that were already there. They were either there when I started or they would get killed off later on and their characters got killed or whatever. I mean, as you see already, Fox has been killed and Chad got killed and stuff like that. I mean, you've seen that.
Yeah.
Of course, you don't know who shot Fox, and you're going to be kind of surprised when you find out. I'll leave that to your wide-eyed shock. But so yeah, I mean, that was one thing that I really wanted to bring up because I just find that so incredibly interesting of how very, very little new characters that I actually got to see when I started watching the show, other than Pretty joining. I guess somebody else who is a Passions fan that always watched every episode, I guess would have to fill me in and remind me in case I'm wrong on that or whatever. But I mean, I might be a little bit wrong, and maybe there might have been another character that was introduced later on, and I just don't remember. But um, my memory is not as good as it used to be, and so and even though I watch Passions a lot, I still forget. Um, oh, and of course, obviously, I mean, I know that Spike joined later on and everything. I know that Spike was on later on, but
Yeah.
I mean, as I
It
told you,
was dating Jessica at the time.
yes, but
It
but like
made Jessica to kill all of them guys that she slept with,
yeah,
all
basically
them Johns.
made her a prostitute and all that stuff. But like I told you, unfortunately, I don't think this is very much of a spoiler, but his character never gets an ending. I mean, for all the way up till we watch to the very end, his character kind of just remains out there. He's never arrested. He's never killed. If they ever did bring Passions back, they would need to wrap up what happened to Spike because he never gets his comeuppance or anything like that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unlike the other villains and everything who get some sort of form of comeuppance, I will not tell you how, but Spike never does. So um, so I mean, yeah, there's just so much that we could just sit here and be talking about with this amazing soap opera that I mean we consider to be the best soap opera ever. I don't know about everybody else out there in the world. Everybody else will have to you know, tell us what they think, but their opinions. But this is our soap opera, so for
Bring passions back.
yes, please do. We all want it back. Mackenzie Westmore has actually, I've said this before, she's already made it clear she will not come back unless they put Sheridan and Luis together. She does not want Luis with Fancy and all that stuff and everything. I don't want Luis and Fancy to break up, but I don't know. But Sheridan has, I mean, Mackenzie Westmore has mentioned here and there, she's mentioned a number of times, that there are a few things in store for Passions. She hasn't given a full thing saying like it's guaranteeingly coming back, but she has definitely said that some things are up for it. And oh, look at that. That's all the time we have for our second Passion Supernatural podcast show. We made it through round 2, people. Hey, thank you, Passions fans. You guys all rock. We love you guys. Thank you, Casey, for co-star hosting with me once again. Hope you had a good time. Yep. All right. Last week, I gave you all an assignment to tell 10 of your closest friends to tune into YouTube every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern for our podcast. We need your support, people. This weekend, I want you to tell 11 of your closest friends to tune in, okay? That's one more than 10. I usually suck at math, but who's counting? So don't miss a single Sunday when we air Passion's Supernatural podcast. And I remind you once again, definitely be sure to tune in, because hopefully, really emphasis on hopefully, we will have a few cast members on our show in just a few weekends. Let's pray and really cross our fingers that we can get some people. Try for Lindsay Hartley, Eric Martzoff, Galen Gehring, Mackenzie Westmore. So many we pray that we get. Just hope that they say yes, people. But until we get some, come back next weekend. Casey and I will be back just like today. We'll be discussing more of the show for a full hour. Sunday, September 6th, 2 p.m. Eastern, only on YouTube. See you guys next weekend. I'm Joe Velasquez. Thank you for watching.
I'm Casey Metcalf.
Thank you, Casey. And remember, you are our passion for life. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yes. All right. So long, everybody. See you all next weekend. Yes.
Bye, everybody.